Well, welcome to Inside Live, and today we're really lucky to have Mary Fernstrom from Workday with us. I'm Sherry Huss, co-founder of Inside Live, and I'm here with my colleague, Inamar Kabovi.
Hey everyone, welcome Mary. Thanks, Sherry.
Cool. So Mary, let's welcome. I mean, you and I have known each other a long time. We go
Long
way back
time.
in the event world, and
Yeah.
what are you doing these days? And maybe introduce yourself and tell us where you're at and what you're up to.
Thank you, Sherry and Itamar. I'm Mary Fernstrom, and I lead the experience marketing team at Workday. And I am thrilled beyond belief to be with the experiential marketing icons like you both are. So thank you very, very much for having me. It's an honor to be here. And in terms of what we're doing right now, I think like everyone, we're really starting to look at what does this digital shift mean? And what does it mean for the future of events? So this is not, I do not feel like at this moment in time, this is a small blip. We've been in this for many weeks, many months. We still continue to see this being at least, a year out before we're seeing live events coming back from my perspective. So what does that mean? How do you deal with it? How do you think differently? How do you really push the team to invent new ways to reach the customers and the prospects that we're really hoping to engage with? And so I look at it truly as an opportunity to modernize event marketing. I mean, this really is a moment in time for us that I think we should all embrace and not be afraid of. Really, be forward thinking, try new things. It's the opportunity to fail right now in a way that people are understanding that these are new technologies, new processes, new ways of engaging. So that's what we're focused on. And I have the most amazing team in the world. So what I do is help to guide some visionary components, but the work that they do is amazing. So I'm very, very proud and happy to be working with them.
Modernize event marketing. That's cool. Can you take that apart a little bit for me? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, what's interesting is when we got the word, we all have to take our events and then shift to digital. The first thing you start looking at is what are the technology platforms? And a lot of the technology platforms that we used back in 2001 or 2008 were On24 and InExpo, which is now Intrado. And the technology, from my humble perspective, has not changed dramatically. And I think what we're seeing with Freeman and other companies is this opportunity to say, how do we create a digital engagement platform? People want to come together. They want to connect. And I think being connected is what events is all about. That's, people go to be with others and to share like-minded thoughts and to get best practices and to get that energy, those hugs that you need when you're at an event. Those are just so critically important that I think these new platforms that are going to start coming out are going to take advantage of second screen. They're going to take advantage of the fact that our attention span from 10 years ago, when you could watch 45 minutes on 24 straight, we're all in little snackable content. Like 5 minutes is a long time for some things right now. So I think it's forcing us to be storytellers, and that is harder to do in a live environment because people can take the time that they want to develop the story. Now you have to do it in a very concise and short amount of time. And I think that's an art and a skill that's going to continue to be evolved. I don't think long form content will ever be fashionable anymore. So when we talk about modern, it's, really delivering the value that you need to deliver to the customers, really taking a customer centric approach. What do they need and want? And how do we help deliver it in a compelling and engaging way? So I think that's where a lot of our mind is, like, who's going to be some of those platform development companies that are really going to embrace this, because I think hybrid is here to stay for a long time. And having a complementary live event and a digital event, I think truly it benefits the event marketing industry, and it benefits all the customers and prospects who can't make it there. So it's almost forcing an investment in ensuring that the content, what we build all these programs around, really lives on. And there's some companies that are doing it super successfully right now that have a head start on others, but I think we're all going to be heading in that direction.
And what are some of the examples of that you think are the most successful that we could look to in any industry or field where you're seeing that?
Well, we often look to Salesforce as a company that we admire their marketing. I love their event marketing organization, K-Flow, hello. They're tremendous at marketing. I mean, they have an engine that's incredible. And the way that they're serving up and delivering the virtual content right now within their platform, and the programs that they're covering from thought leadership all the way down to developer training, like their Trailhead program, they have the suite of what their customers are really looking for. And I think that coupled with a really frictionless user experience online is allowing people to go in and digest what they want when they want it. And I think that is, in some ways, I think that's a little bit of the mode of the future. I want to be on my timeline. I don't want to, go to a webinar at 7 a.m. if I don't have to. I'll go to that webinar when I need to and need to dive deeper into that topic. So
interesting, super interesting to think about that. Can you imagine, I mean, we've all been hearing, Mary, in this kind of world of making connections. On one hand, we're looking at the hugs, right? And the fact that presumably there's not really anything that replaces a hug. Like,
no,
you can create some version of a virtual hug, but it doesn't feel like a hug. And I guess that's a piece that we got to make sure we think about. But in our virtual world, obviously there's going to need to be a lot of stuff that's communicated without the hug, without the actual in-person hug. So one of the things that obviously has come up is this idea of a hybrid, and you just mentioned second screen. You just mentioned content that people can go to on their schedule rather than having to, it's not so different from the difference between broadcast television and streaming, right?
Yes,
Where now everyone wants to watch and binge watch when they want to binge watch, not when it's 8 o'clock on a Wednesday.
Right.
So we're seeing that in a lot of different aspects where everyone has just succumbed to streaming now.
Right.
But my question is, what from the perspective of the attendee, the customer, how does it change when I'm living in, let's jump forward 2 years. And I know we don't know exactly what the technology will be and you can't predict the future, but what's it going to feel like to have a relationship to a brand for the people who are now going to big shows? How are you going to interact from the perspective of the user, not from the perspective of the brand? Like, how do people live with these brands?
Well, I'm a big believer in the phrase, show me, you know me. So I think if, as a consumer, I want to feel like who I am, what I need, what the history of working with me has been. So I think it's all about relevance. And I believe that this is going to force us to truly prioritize our audience. So I have the honor to work with a group of peers in the Event Marketing Strategy Council, we call it. It's a lot of high-tech companies, and we get together and share information and support each other. And so when you talk about connections, those connections are the most valuable to me right now. We used to do an event or a meeting 3 times a year. We're now meeting every month because there's so much to talk about. We're able to get the leads of the digital platforms that have just launched to come and talk about what they've learned. And it's really helping bring the community together. And I think when you look at, what someone is looking for when they're showing up at an event, it's sort of that consumer experience. And so when you talk about you don't know what the future looks like, I think you mentioned it's like Netflix. I think what's happening is we're trying to mimic the consumer way that we're consuming things, and Netflix and Show Me You Know Me is where you're serving up content or things that you think I will like because I've watched 10 crime shows, so you're going to give me the next amazing crime show. I think that is what people expect. And the TMSC, that meeting, one of the things that came out of it is, how do we start looking at the future of events? And we talked about the hybrid event. Is it the hybrid events for everyone and the 400 VIP attendees who can socially distance safely at a live event are the only ones invited to come? I mean, does this turn our traditional model on its head and really have high touch for the most important, customers at the time? It's really giving us this, we really have to think about all these factors now.
And if you're now going to plan,
less is finally more. I think with Dreamforce, we were always so jealous, that you get 176,000 people or whatever number they were up to. They took over San Francisco. Now that's very hard to imagine that we'd have that density anymore. So how do you engage with the right customers throughout the entire year and make these events, I don't want to say exclusive because you want to be inclusive, but you also have to limit it. So I think this will definitely, you'll see different companies trialing different approaches, just like you're seeing with the virtual platforms. Some are doing a 2-day event, some are doing a 6-week series. So I think it's trial and error. And again, this group that I'm a part of, we're bringing back the learnings and sharing it with each other. So we're hoping that we're going to make the industry a better place, and again, more modern as we look forward. That's our hope.
That's great. I'm going to say, I actually think good for you I actually think that's a model and kind of even a tip that wherever, as people are listening to this, whatever community they're in, the more that you can embrace them and pull them together, because it's going to take all of us to get through this.
It is.
That's kind of really key, and good on you guys for getting together and doing that. Yeah, it's key.
It really is amazing. And what every one of us is being asked by our CMOs, well, what are they doing? What's that company doing? And to be able to pick up the phone and we know each other and we're all listening to the same information. It's been priceless. It's really amazing. So I very much appreciate my peers.
It also seems like in some way competition is transforming into community.
Yes, when you in this community, we really look at this is our role. Like, I don't have a peer within my organization that also does events at the corporate level. Our organizations are usually unique, and there's one of them that pulls off these large events. So we actually need each other to benchmark and to help, put into perspective, what are other people doing? And now what's my strategy based on the uniqueness of my company? So it's, again, it's really been an invaluable opportunity to learn from incredible people. It's
It
been
also seems
fantastic.
like we lived for so many years with the idea of teaching our kids about community and
Yes.
service and connection. But in the real world, it seemed like things were drifting further and further away from that. And now it almost feels like the community is not just a nice idea, it's actually survival. Like we need
Yes.
each other. Like we can't do it without doing this.
I
And
agree. And I think,
that's, I hope be remembered after this is over, you know?
yeah, I don't think we'll ever take for granted, who helped us get through this. And I think we know it's, agencies, it's our peers, it's people who are helping us think about the future. What does the future of events look like? It's a lot, there's a lot of demands and a lot of requests coming to the event leaders at the companies right now, putting policies in place, safety precautions, like how do we map to the John Hopkins database. Like really, there's a lot of complexity that I think is, it's making us really stand up and take more of a leadership role in what does this marketing look like? And at the same time, we have this unique platform that is truly cannot be replicated because it is those hugs. It's that real, face to face that we all know and love. But right now we're all playing in the same sandbox in marketing in a sense. Like our demand gen team is doing webinars. It's the same customer base. So we just really have to be smart about how are we integrating our efforts. So I see at Workday, we're integrating our efforts more. And I would say that the community, which has been really what the success of Workday has all been about, we're on the same platform and all the customers, we have this incredibly rich community and all the customers help solve each other's problems. So we don't even need as many services people because customers are helping one another, which is amazing. And I think if we think about that from an events perspective, how do we facilitate more of that? How do we facilitate more of community when you're on site? Because walking into a room and sitting down and watching a screen and sitting in a 45-minute presentation, you can do that at home on a computer. You don't need to be there for that. And I think we need to start thinking about what do you absolutely need to be there for and really make it more about that networking and connections and how do you co-create versus, just providing one-way content to them. So I think it will, be interesting. Khan Academy, they've sort of started this movement. It'll be interesting to see if we deliver content and then, the event is all about going deeper and connecting with one another. So that's, Bruce Mao said, right, depth and reach will be the new, sort of the two new forces. So deep and going networking and getting into community, and then reach is the kind of that virtual component that I think is going to be very valuable to remember those two words.
Yeah, that's
Amazing. I wondered if we could go just for one more minute before we move on to other things into the hugs category.
Yeah.
And
Great.
if you imagine an event for 300 people, a 2 or 3 day event where they're actually coming, and this is sort of let's call it the most intimate family for the destination wedding, like
Right.
you really pared it down to just the people that have got to be there. What is that experience like? I show up and now instead of feeling like I'm here with 10,000 people, I'm here with 300 and they're all sort of intensely important in the family.
Yeah, I think,
How do you
it's a
think
really
about
interesting
hosting
question.
that? Yeah, how do you imagine that great VIP early live experience, which can't be more than 300 people?
Yeah, I think we need to really analyze the audience. And I think we need to understand what are their top priorities, like what are their initiatives that they're driving. So I would almost hope if we go to that path, there's almost like a questionnaire that gets filled out around what are you trying to get out of this event? Who do you want to meet with? What are the hot topics? And that their event experience is designed for them within the confines of this, event program. I mean, I think that would be the ultimate, because you're really saying to them, I know who you are. Show me you know me. I know who you are. I know why you're coming to this. I'm going to connect you with these 4 people who are dealing with the same things that you just told me you're dealing with. And we're going to get you in a room, and we're going to be able to problem solve and co-create with each other. I don't even think it's, many cases, the most value that people get on site at our events are things like brain dates, where there's a topic and they need other people to, sort of help them think through it. And we can connect those people. It's not even always Workday experts. It's often their peers from other companies who are willing to give the time to solve a problem. And I think we need to remember that, like, we're the facilitator of getting these valuable people together. And I think it's very similar to the TMSC, right? It's, we all have a need, and we're able to work through it and co-create together. So,
at Blobolus, we used to always call it the power to convene.
yes.
And I think it's a huge power, the power to convene. Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm going to say, when I was traveling with Maker Faire, I was always impressed with our international partners that, would meet me at the airport, and
Right.
there was always a person there. Like, I'd come out of my hotel room and there's someone there and they were going to take me somewhere.
Right.
It almost seems like with 300 people, you could actually start having a personal, a guide, or, someone that's actually making the connections that really become
Right.
meaningful. And it kind of goes to the show me, you know me. It's kind of interesting.
I was teaching earlier
I
this
agree.
year before things shut down, early February in Berlin at the film festival. And as a guest of the film festivals, I was picked up at the airport by someone who introduced themselves to me as my angel. And it was a young artist who basically every day met me at the hotel, helped me get places, reserved tickets, and it ended up being this relationship where I'm still emailing with my angel,
Your angel.
at that time. But it was it felt like you were really taken care of. Like someone was like, you don't need to go and figure this out. Just tell me what you want and I'll work the system for you.
Right. And I mean, truly, in both cases, how did it make you feel?
Great.
Like super important and super cared for, and really grateful to the angel.
Yeah.
I invited her to dinner one night with a group of us, and I felt like she was doing it because she was a young artist who wanted to be around a community of other people that are more advanced in their careers. And I felt like that was the value that I could try to give back.
Yep.
Right. And I think what we're missing in this digital format is that feeling. It's the emotional connection. It's like, how did you make me feel? I think it's just harder because we're at a distance. There's sort of this invisible wall between us, even though this is fantastic, to be able to have this kind of collaboration. But events is all about how it makes you feel. How did it make you feel when you left that? Like that's it. I think we just have to bottle that and design everything we can in the hopes that they walk away feeling something. So
what were the kinds of things during this experience of the last 20 weeks that made you feel the most emotional?
Oh boy.
Like what moved you? What kind of made you kind of tear up or feel like, wow, I love these people, or whatever that,
Well, I would say what was just a pleasant surprise and made me tear up and fill my heart with joy was a friend in the industry, Dina, who sent a package to me last week, and I opened it up, and it was notepads and fresh pens. the note, which was handwritten, said, every now and then you need a fresh pad and new pens. And I opened it in front of my daughter, and she's like, that is so true. And so it's just, I mean, it seems like a little gesture, but it was the surprise and delight that you often get at an event, that the little things mean a lot. I mean, that was so thoughtful. So I think it's people who
And she
go out
showed
of
you
their
she knew
way.
you, right? She showed
Sorry?
you she showed you she knew you.
Yes, and I do love fresh notebooks.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? And the pens are very colorful, so it will help with my doodling, which I often do when I'm on calls as well.
Okay.
That's a big lesson, because I think we sometimes have to look to ourselves and what actually made us jump out of the numb kind of like Groundhog's Day kind of feeling.
Yes.
And I think those are the things that are going to be affecting everyone.
And
Agreed.
I'm
And
gonna say it also goes to I mean, this is a nod to Bob. It even goes to how you treat your staff. I mean, Bob used to have these like milk and cookies in our room. It's that
yes,
hospitality, and he knew I liked iced tea, and another friend liked Diet Coke, and you get into like Buffalo at midnight into a hotel, and there's nothing better than seeing like, oh man, there's iced tea here or milk and cookies.
right.
And I think it does extend to even our staff, to kind of keep them like top of mind of, this is important and this touched me, and it goes even beyond our customers. It's our
I
community,
agree.
the whole community.
And it's like, I think, well, Bob's one of the most thoughtful people in the world. So, hats off to Bob. I think in that example, like, Bob's showing you he cares. And I think at the end of the day, isn't that what we're all here for? It's, loving and caring and wanting to sort of be a have a positive influence on other people. And I think that thoughtfulness just goes a long way. And right now, when you ask that question about like what makes you tear up, I think it is those gestures that show empathy and kindness. That is really what the world has needed for a long time. And hopefully we're all nicer. And I don't hear as many beeping. There's less cars on the road, but I also don't hear a lot of beeping. I just think people are putting their, selfish priorities in a bigger context right now, which is lovely.
You speak so well.
So Mary, you have Workday Rising coming up.
Yes.
September. Are there any, and you mentioned hybrid before, are there any things that you're thinking that you might do a little mini hybrid experiment with that? Or is it just sort of?
Right now, the way that Workday, I mean, first and foremost, it's the safety of our customers and our employees. And the way that the COVID experience, and this is what we're tracking, we're actually working with our safety team where we're tracking, what is the percentage of open hospital beds? Is the local community or county, what's the rise in cases? And if we were to do something, we would have to feel absolutely 100% that it would be a safe meeting and opportunity. And I think right now, we've made the decision that it will be virtual because we don't feel that under the current circumstances, we were supposed to be in San Francisco, that we can actually, provide a safe environment we were anticipating 15,000 people. So I think the trend of let's really look at not doing live events until mid next year, I think is really truly what is likely going to happen with these new shutdowns happening this week.
That makes sense. So switching to content, if you were expecting 15,000 people, I suspect you're going to get more online.
Yes.
And you talked a bit about even designing experiences for online. what are you thinking in that content arena? Anything different or?
We are really looking at a perspective of what does our customer base need? What kind of conversations do we need to have at this moment in time? And I think it's, we need to make sure that we're relevant, and we need to make sure that the product information and the content that they're looking for still can be delivered to them. But I think we're really thinking, what is it that someone needs at this moment in time? And a 4-day event where you're getting up at 8 a.m. and you're going to your lab, and then all day you're meeting with people, that you just can't replicate online. So it's these bite-sized snackable content, and it's really what's important right now. And I think that is what everyone's doing, is taking a pause and saying, what's the most important thing, and how does Workday lead conversations that are going to help organizations move forward in the future? Those are top of mind for us right now.
Do you have a sense of what that is that people are most, concerned with? Is that obviously safety and health and so on, but do you feel like that's something that you're getting a sense of what the pulse is of that?
There's a wonderful tool that we use, and I love it. It's called Boardroom Insiders. And I think one of the things that it tracks is executives who are, you can get public information on them through their analyst calls, through LinkedIn, through other things. And it calls like 200 publications. And it basically gives you a profile, like let's say it's Sherry, gives you a profile of Sherry of what are the key initiatives you're working on? How has COVID kind of shifted the priorities for the organization? And I think at the end of the day, what we're seeing, and that is validating it, this database kind of tells you what's rising to the top. COVID isn't every earnings call. COVID is, because of COVID, do I need to accelerate my digital transformation? Because of COVID, do I need a better growth strategy? Because of COVID, is my business so growing so fast, like an Amazon? Can I hire talent at the rate that I need to be able to deliver and fulfill demand? So I do think that COVID is top of mind, growth is top of mind, and I would say on the safety part, it's all about like return to work. So when can we get back to returning to work? And that, I think, again, are things that all companies, everyone is thinking about. I'm sure you guys are putting your heads together every day on what does that look like for your clients? That is, I think where it's at right now.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about COVID, like earnings calls and that. It's really interesting. What was the name of that tool again? Did you say?
It is called Boardroom Insiders. A wonderful woman by the name of Sharon Gillenwater is one of the founders. And it really came out of a need. I was working at another company at the time, and we all wanted to understand, like, who are the CEOs and C-level people that our leaders want to get in front of, and what do they care about? So how can we be better about showing me? And that tool is amazing to allow you to do that. They have like 20,000 executives in their database, and it gives you analysis around what they care about, who cares about it. We're able to go in and understand who, like we could say, who on the West Coast, who's a CFO likes golf, if we wanted to have golf invitations. So those, it's really focused on interests and kind of their overall profile and content. So I am always pushing, the best thing for us to do is, who do we want in the room? and then based on who we want in the room, what do they care about, and then get the most compelling speakers around what they care about, I would think that the percentage of people that would accept that invitation is going to dramatically increase, because you've just created something that matters to them. So I think we'll start seeing more of that, where we're turning this upside down to say, like, you know, we want 150,000 people to show up. No, we don't. We want the most valuable people to show up. And I think that's going to be the new currency for events is, did you get the quality of audience that you were looking for?
You're here.
Yeah.
Well, that was great. Honestly, I think this has been awesome spending time with you.
Oh my God, amazing.
Likewise.
Very short period, you've given us lots of great things to share with the community. So I thank you, and you know, would still love to maybe come back maybe after Rising and check in with you and see like what you're thinking then, because I think you have a very unique perspective. You're very much in touch not only with the community, your audience, and also your special group too that helps you guys all kind of inform
support
and
each other. Our support group.
we all need one or two.
Yes.
I would love to also talk at some point, Mary, again about formats, because you were talking about bite-sized stuff, short form. You were talking about, you know, and I couldn't agree more with you about that. There's a whole world there, though, of video versus text, and of stuff that kind of, you know, works more effectively. And I think just like the early days of TV, we're figuring all that out. Like, is there an 8-minute show followed by 7 bite-sized pieces, and how do they interact with each other, and what is the kind of hub from which we stream all this stuff? And I think those are all interesting questions to try to help create that format that we're inventing right now.
I agree. And I want to give a shout out to both of you, because I think the Decameron Row, am I saying that right? The project that you're working on, it's the way that you're displaying stories is so interesting. And I think it's a simple concept. And I recommend everyone checking it out, decameronrow.com. But I think what you're, you know, really starting to deliver on and giving us inspiration is, how do we really showcase what we're doing in a different way? And sometimes it's just the shell needs to be more compelling and different for people to want to jump in and engage. So hats off to you, because I was blown away.
It's really a project in community, and this was sort of our proof of concept kind of first go at it. So I think there's a lot there that we're planning to grow and learn from. It's been really fun.
Wow. It's awesome. And your artists that you engage with are incredibly talented. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, people have been amazingly, again, responsive, and this whole thing, Mary, including everything involved in this project, costs $0.
Wow.
Yeah. Thought about
amazing.
Money. Well, thank you. I'm gonna.
Yes, thank you.
And thanks again. I appreciate your time and your insights, and we'll look forward to sharing this with all our collective community as well. So thanks.
Fantastic. Mary. I'm honored, truly. Thank you.
Great conversation, Mary. Super deep and awesome.